rest stop, an experiment in sound. After he retired, Ted decided to hit the road. And why not? The house was empty, his wife had passed away, and the kids all lived in other provinces. So when the open road beckoned, Ted answered the call. Ted's ride was a used Chevy pickup with a canopy top, perfect for stealth camping, as in camping off the grid, camping wherever he felt like stopping. Oh, sometimes he stopped at regular campgrounds, where there were other people, families, kids, picnic tables, but most of the time he preferred to be alone. He would find a good spot with no other campers or, best of all, an isolated field or path into the woods. He would follow it, set up camp, and sleep among the trees. Ted liked being in the woods the most. He liked lying in the back of the pickup in the pitch darkness, listening to the night sounds, especially the wind in the trees. It lulled him, and he slept better than at any time in his entire life. Ted was driving cross-country when he found himself in an isolated area of southwestern Ontario. The darkness had begun to take control. His son's house was still a good 2 hours away, so instead of arriving late in the evening, he thought he would sleep out one more time and reach his destination just in time for breakfast. The twilight had begun to deepen when Ted noticed the rest area. The rest area. It was to the left of a dark section of road, and Ted almost missed it. Fortunately, there were no other cars on that section of highway, so he was able to slow down and pull in. The place was dilapidated. There was a dirt parking lot, a few battered picnic tables, and no lights. It had an air of abandonment, which suited Ted in his solitary ways just fine. The rest area was screened off from the road by a grove of trees. Good. He parked the Chevy over in the darkest corner, then got out and gave the lot a quick once-over, looking for beer cans and other signs of partying. But nothing. Nothing. Good. Double plus good. In anticipation of making it to his son's house, Ted had eaten a big meal at dinner time, so now he contented himself with some beef jerky, a cigarillo, and a couple of shots of dark rum. And then bed. It had been a long day. Ted stretched out under the canopy, lying atop his sleeping bag, as it was a warm night, and he was still largely dressed. A breeze had sprung up, so he cracked one of the small windows for some fresh air, and lay back listening to the wind in the nearby fir and deciduous trees. And soon he was fast asleep. Ted woke with a start. Taking a quick look at the luminous hands of his watch, he found it was midnight. Unsure as to why he had woken up, he peered out the canopy window to find the parking lot awash in silvery autumnal moonlight. And standing there were two children, a boy and what looked like a younger girl. They were both wearing hoodies, so it was hard to tell. Ted's initial reaction was to call out to them. But the words died in his throat. silenced by a wave of such intense icy fear that he almost stopped breathing. But then he told himself to quit being such a fool. They're just kids. Find out what they want. But inside his heart, he didn't believe it. He didn't believe that. No, there was something wrong here. Something seriously wrong. These kids. Were they kids? Whatever they were evil. Pure, unadulterated evil. And they were right outside his window. So Ted tried to close it, being as quiet as possible. But still, they heard him. Oh, Teddy, Teddy, we know you're in there. We know you're in there. Come out and play with us. Come out, Teddy. Ted slammed the window shut and lay there, listening to the kids as they walked in circles around the truck, clapping their hands, stamping their feet. What was this, story time? Clapping their hands, stamping their feet, and giggling. Ted knew the whole situation was ridiculous. A mature man frightened by two kids. But fear trumped rationality. He thought about crawling from the back and jumping into the cab of the pickup and peeling rubber out of there. But he knew in his heart that he'd never make it. And so, Ted lay there all night long as the cold perspiration ran down his face, listening to the whispering of the wind and the whispering of the two infernal children, who whispered all his secrets, whispered all his fears, and whispered all his hidden shames. His hidden shames. Eventually, Ted fell asleep. And eventually, the dawn came. It always does. Ted could no longer hear the weird children. The canopy windows were tinted, so Ted could see out while no one could see in. And once it was broad daylight, he was able to verify that the kids were gone. Ted left the rest area rather quickly. But he badly needed coffee and stopped at a diner in the next town. The joint was filled with people of Ted's vintage, and as curiosity was beginning to override his previous fear, he said to the assembled room, "I'm visiting around here and looking for a place to camp out. I passed a rest area a few miles back. Would that be a good place to stop?" Dead silence. Dead silence. Eventually, someone said, "No, mister, that wouldn't be a good place to stop." The room remained silent as Ted drank the rest of his coffee, drank it as quickly as possible in order to get out of there. Ted was just climbing into the pickup when he was stopped by an old man wearing a baseball cap. "Afraid you hit something of a nerve there, sir. That park is kind of a taboo subject around here. Taboo, eh? Nobody goes there, and we don't talk about it." It appeared that a number of years ago, two children had been found murdered in the park. A teen boy and a preteen girl. They had been literally hacked to pieces. No one knew who they were, and their identities were never discovered. Whether their murders were the results of a serial killer or human traffickers, no one knew. But ever since, the park was said to be haunted. Haunted by ghosts? Or by something worse? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, dear listeners. And please consider subscribing. Oh, and Ted? Ted took another road home, one that didn't go by the rest area.